everyone. Good afternoon. I am Christina, and I lead the ecosystem growth team at Ripple. And thanks for joining this session. Today, I'll be talking about supporting builders and what it takes to grow the XRPL ecosystem. And when I say builders, I don't just mean developers. I mean founders, educators, investors, creators, holders. We're not just building a protocol, we're building an interconnected network. Human connection working together to grow the overall ecosystem. And if you're coding, funding, investing, if you're founding, or even if you're a holder of XRP, you're part of the story and the story of growing XRPL ecosystem. Growing doesn't work in isolation. It means growing means working together. If you haven't known already, XRP Ledger, the technology, is designed and built-in with built-in features with token standard, asset controls, payments, and DEX. And it's designed so that anyone can build anything on top of the ledger easily. And at the center of all of this, the North Star is XRP. Everything that we do from growing the utility of XRP Ledger is in the benefit of XRP. And XRP and XRP Ledger has been around for 13 years. That's 13 years journey. And my journey personally started 5 years ago at Ripple with one single mission, to grow the ecosystem. And when I first started, I'm not gonna lie, it was really hard. We're going to the events and people they knew about XRP, but they didn't know about XRP Ledger. So I'll be going to events saying like, hello, there's actually technology behind it and you can build on top of it. And so we all got together at Ripple and we started talking about like, how do we get growth going on this ecosystem? How do we get this flywheel of growth to happen to the point where it leads to mass adoption? And what we did is we started from ground zero. And what does that mean? That means starting with the original community at that time. We had developer events, we had hackathons, and we distributed grants to the original community. And we even ran our very first Apex. Yes, this is the first conference where we had a bunch of developers, existing community. It was in Vegas. And that's the main stage you see over there, and a few couches. And 100 people showed up to the event. And at that time, I was like, wow, 100 people showing up at this conference. You know, it's this idea that we threw together, and it was amazing. But we wanted to do more, and to be honest, we ran into a lot of challenges, right? Developers need funding, they need users. Users want to play around with products that solve their problem or are meaningful to them. And investors will only invest if it's a strong project and there's traction, right? So different groups of people these three groups needed each other, but they weren't connected. And so that's when I realized that growth isn't a straight line. To me, growth is interconnected growth loops. So you can imagine gears in a clock, right? They work simultaneously together to power a bigger system. And so that's exactly what it means here, right? You need developers to build product, startups to build product. They need to get users, and when users engage, that gets traction. And there's traction, investors will come in and invest in the product. And that's exactly what we've been doing for over the last couple of years. We've just been connecting these different gears together, getting more devs, getting more folks in the ecosystem, getting investors, all coming in. And this is just a few gears. Now, if you have different use cases, it's different tactics, it's different gears. For instance, if you're building an RWA tokenization platform, who's going to build that product? And if they come in, how do we help them get asset managers or assets on chain? And then if they're on chain, how do you get distribution, meaning how do you get users to buy those assets? And if they're a small team, how do you help them find investors? So a part of a lot of what we do on a team is just connecting. Master connectors is what I like to call it. And after a while, when you connect all these different gears together and they start spinning, the cycle starts. And then momentum happens. And when momentum happens, things just start moving. And things start to grow. And so fast forward from all those years to now, we've deployed about 20 million in grants, 180 projects. There's 3.3 billion transactions on the ledger, and there's about 7 million in active XRP wallets. What's also really exciting is that this year, DeFi is exploding. There's been 100% growth in TVL, and yes, I know this isn't, there's other ecosystems where DeFi is really blooming, but honestly, I'm really excited because for the first time this year, DeFi is here on XRP Ledger, and there's so much more we're going to be doing with these teams. There's going to be so much more support added to all the DeFi projects on the ecosystem. XRP Ledger is also top 10 now in terms of RWAs, whether you're an institution or a small team. We're here to support you with over 200 million in market cap, and things are going to continue to grow, and we're going to continue to add and support the teams, whether you're an institution or a small player in this space. But that's not just it. We want to do more. We want to do more for this ecosystem and the folks on this journey. And what does that mean? It means more funding. Whoops, there it is. So a couple years ago, we made a dedication to the community saying like, hey, there's going to be 1 billion XRP fund distributed to all the builders and all the entrepreneurs in the ecosystem. And what does that mean? Well, then we started XRPL grants. XRPL grants ran by Ripple. We really focus on financial use cases such as stablecoin, payments with RLUSD, collateral management, and also trade finance. And from that, we also launched the Japan and Korea Fund to really dedicate funding teams coming out of Japan, and especially here in the heart of South Korea. But that's not just it. We want to do more. We want people outside of Ripple to help grow the ecosystem. And so we have other entities that we support that are going to be launching their own funding program. For instance, XRPL Commons, they're going to be launching a program to support open source projects on XRP Ledger. We have Zhao Dao, who's going to be distributing microgrants for investing in early ideas. So if you're new to this ecosystem, there's multiple entry points and multiple ways to win. Not just grants, but mentors, global programs to help projects succeed in the ecosystem. So things Accelerator in Brazil, all the way from Accelerator in Europe or Innovation Hub in UAE, and tons of programs in Asia with Tenity, with Jetro. And mostly all of this is for mentorship. And what does that mean? That means market access. If you're a project, for instance, in South Korea, and you're like, hey, I want to figure out how to enter the US market and get users there. There's folks in this ecosystem working together that will help connect you. And it's also about strategic partnerships that we have all over the world, as you see here below. They are here to help you open doors for you on this journey on XRPL ecosystem. But not just that, we have been working really hard in spinning the investor growth loop. And what does that mean? Getting investors to pay attention to XRPL projects. Like, hey, come in, look at the teams that we have here, invest in the teams. So some of the names here are people who have been looking at XRPL projects or have actually invested in XRPL projects. And what's really interesting is like this year, there are teams coming to us, VCs coming to us and saying like, hey, we want to invest in teams in XRPL. Do you have any DeFi teams? If you know, just let me know and we'll invest. But not just that, we also want to expand, make things, expand more for the ecosystem. And what does that mean? So in terms of tech, it's about, we just launched the EVM sidechain. And what does that mean? That means Ethereum developers coming into the ecosystem. More tools, more builders, a stronger network. And just honing in on the APAC spotlight, there has been a lot of teams that are growing and are building on XRP Ledger. And just here in South Korea, we have Doppler and Gearin. Doppler building a DeFi app, Gearin building a non-custodial wallet. And it's very, very exciting, just here in the heart of South Korea. And there's not just that, there's other use cases. There's stable pay in Singapore, and there's gaming. Also, a lot of other teams that are coming on board that are exploring opportunities on XRP Ledger, like Aceto Finance, which you just heard of earlier, and Second Swap. There is just a ton going on here. And so I want to talk about a little bit about, our team, honestly, is very small. And we can't help everybody. And so what we do is we empower entities outside of the ecosystem to support the broader community. So a couple years ago, we helped launch XRPL Commons. And what that is an entity, let's just call it a hub where they provide education, mentorship, residency, or even run hackathons. And they help grow the European market. And they've been blossoming this year. And they've been expanding to different countries within that region. And so I do want to announce that today we are exploring opening APAC hub opening a hub in APAC. And what does this mean? This means regional leadership and local leadership just dedicated to APAC hub overall. It means they run growth engines on their own. They do whatever they need to do to grow and help and grow the ecosystem, and also connect the teams, the builders, investors, all in the heart of APAC. But most importantly, what it really means is that there's going to be a home for everyone in APAC, in this community, in this ecosystem. And not just that, we also want to double down on South Korea. I think there's a lot of you in the room with bright ideas. There's amazing innovation going on in fintech, especially in crypto. And we want to be here to double down and support this ecosystem here right in South Korea. I mean, if you look back when I said, hey, our first Apex was like 100 participants. Who would have thought like XRPL Seoul can bring in over 3,000 people to this type of event? I think that's like a huge success, and we want to see this continue to grow and foster the innovation that's coming out of the heart of Seoul. And so I do want to remember that, hey, if you've been coding, funding, investing, founding, creating, or even just holding XRP, you're part of this ecosystem. You're part of this story, and you're part of this journey. All I ask is that if you've ever gotten help from the ecosystem, pay it forward. Help the next dreamer that's building something. And if you're new to the ecosystem, welcome to the family. Thank you.